Good evening. Yes, I am speaking English because, as always, the colonialists come and take a part of your life. This session will be in English, but I'll be joined with our friend, one friend. He's not from Split, Šteta, our burger friend. But we're not going to talk about football today. We're actually going to talk about red flags for investors when it comes to startups. Joining me is Izet Ždralović. You'll hear a bit about him first. But first of all, audience, I see you're so, this is brilliant. I can't believe there's so many people here so early for a nation of people that turn up late. So well done. Round of applause for yourselves for coming on time. Very slow clap there. It's fine. We're going to play a game. It's called Red Flags. I want you to make a noise if you think this is a red flag for a conference. Okay? I collected these earlier when I did some market research. First of all, is it a red flag for a conference when it's outdoors? No? Good. Red flag for a conference when there's a dress code? Yeah? Red flag for a conference when there's no coffee break? Mainly women. Red flag for a conference when it's when there's a panel full of ohliabi or suits. Why is no one else clapping at that one? Wow. Red flag for a conference when it's only about career chat. You only talk about your career, nothing else. Okay, some. I'm not going to look at Tony for the next couple. Red flag for a conference when food isn't included in the price. And red flag for a conference when rakia isn't included in the price. Tony, bro. Luckily, Tony did tell me to bring some rakia. And I do not fail to deliver. Open that. This is actually some very special rakia from Alan over there. Cheers, pal, from his father-in-law. I'm drinking your rakia right now. All the way from Bosnia. Everyone knows where that is, right? Yeah? Cool. Some people might not. Is everyone here Croatian? Are there any foreigners here? Hey, there we go, Brits. The Brits. Again, more Brits. He's Scottish, though. You can tell he's wearing a skirt. But don't tell him that. It's a kilt. Okay, so while I'm getting the rakia ready, you have got 1 minute to tell us all about what you do and who you are. But we're going to go in order. First of all, I want you to tell us about račune.hr.
Sure. Hi all. My name's Izet Ždralović. Pleasure to be here. Mike, thanks for the warm-up for this panel discussion. It's awesome actually to see you in such a setting. I've never had a fireside chat or a discussion like this before. So yeah, I mean, I'm like very well known for being a partner at Silicon Gardensu these days. Prior to that, I built a couple companies. Photomet and Microblink, but the one that Michael mentioned that not too many know about is računi.hr. It's actually a failure that we had prior to Microblink. It was very interesting. The concept was to have e-računi, which we have these days in Croatia. Pretty much, they're winning it over. However, the project didn't work out, which is the case with a lot of startups. And practically out of everything we've learned through that process, we sort of sailed into the Microblink story, which became one of the successes. So, but yeah, the main point is like people love to talk about success. Often they do not talk about failures of what they, when they do not succeed. So.
Okay, that was a minute on Račune. Now you got 30 seconds about Microblink. And pass me your glass while you're talking.
Sure. I'll get some water instead, if you don't mind.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah. You got water just to... You're getting dry. Yeah, don't worry. These guys are nice.
Yeah, it's all right. Sorry, what was your next question?
Microblink. Tell me. Yeah, in 30 seconds, what is it?
So Microblink, we built Microblink out of frustration. We're practically... since we didn't succeed with Photomat, we built a computer vision company that utilized camera on mobile devices to scan payment slips. And probably most of you guys, thank you, sir. Most of you use it these days. It's called PhotoPay or Slika I plati functionality. So that's what trademark product that Microblink built. And out of it, we started sort of out of the need, since we weren't successful with računi.hr, we were forced to work out of Croatia, and that was very. It was fantastic actually because we started selling globally and then making these banks utilize our technology out of Croatia, which we're very proud of. So
Brilliant. So then you went from Microblink to Photomath.
actually, yeah,
At the same time?
sort of, yeah. We were Microblink was doing very well. We were working on our SDKs, so software development kits for payment slip scanning, IDs, and stuff. And then at a certain point in time, we came up, or Damir Sabal came up with the idea of scanning math problems and solving math equations. That was back in 2015, I believe. And that's when we sort of were like, Microblink was business to business deal, like with enterprise deals, large customers and stuff. And all of a sudden, we had this new product that was, focusing on B2C or end customers. And practically, we figured out, maybe after a year or so of running the two companies in parallel, we're like, we cannot do this. Like, it needs to be two different businesses. So that's sort of when we divided our co-founding team of Microblink into Photomet and Microblink.
Brilliant. Cool. So a few startups, and now you're in Silicon Gardensu, so the other side.
Correct. Yeah. So yeah, after getting out of, or partially getting out of Microblink, and then obviously fully selling my shares out of Photomet to Google, I started angel investing, which was a very interesting process for me because I was very curious about it, but I was like, I'd meet up with people, and some of them are like, one is from Split, like Ivan Burazin, you guys know him, Circuit Mess, Albert Gajšek. I would meet up with these guys and they had fantastic ideas. Like, I like them, I'll put some money in. And I started doing that, and that felt good. But then I was not doing any due diligence. I was just like, okay, I like these guys, I'm putting the money in. And then at a certain point in time, a friend of mine and my family, they're like, does that make sense? And I'm like, probably not. So I frankly, at that point, I met up with actually Luka Abrus came to me. He's like, would you like to invest into a VC fund? I was like, yeah, sure. Let's talk to them. Then I met up with Silicon Garden guys. I loved what they do because it's the only sort of founders fund in Croatia, which means that the people running the fund are not solely like bankers, but they're entrepreneurs that build their businesses. Like one of the businesses is the first unicorn out of the region, Rok Zorko. He's the GP. He built Outfit 7, which is the Talking Tomcat app, which is it's fantastic. And then another one, Gregor Rebol, he built a Click.c service that got acquired or merged with Sportradar, which is another huge. So it's like, okay, these guys know what they're doing, and they're doing it in two different verticals, which is B2B and consumer apps. And sort of our experience with Photomet and Microblink, fits in very well into that. So I was like, okay, I'll put in some money. I put in some money, and then they're like, at the time I was like advising at Microblink. You don't want to advise company that you're not running, that you build. That's another takeaway. So that they're like, you have some free time? I'm like, yeah, sure I do. And and they're like, oh, would you like to join? And then I joined. And practically since then, that's almost like 2 years ago, we've closed a fund of about 33 million euros, and currently we're investing in startups in various fields. We have over 17 investments so far. We still have a lot of dry powder or cash to invest in. So yeah,
cool.
This one.
Thank you. Let's have a look in our audience. So is anyone here? Does anyone have a startup here? Does anyone work for a startup? Has anyone ever got investment before? Has anyone invested in a company before? Has anyone ever invested in their own lives before? There we go, a few more hands. Good, excellent. Okay, good. So one of the things that we're going to touch on today, red flags when it comes to investing, like you hit the nail on the head when you said, okay, first of all, I invested in people I liked. So let's focus on the people side. So let's think about personalities. So reputation. Can reputation be a red flag? Does it not matter? What do you think? Do you have any stories?
Oh my God, yeah. Reputation matters a lot. We like to invest in second or third time founders, and they don't necessarily need to be success stories, because if you have somebody who's tried something and they weren't successful, they've gone They've gone the journey. So you're willing to, to give them another shot there. So that's a good example, and it shows but then also if you have somebody whose reputation is not good in whatever terms, you often do not invest in them.
So when we talk about, so that's business reputation. What about like personal reputation? So for example, you come to Split, you talk to a few people, and they're like, "Oh, that Tony Trivkovic," What then? What do you do? Have you had any experience with that kind of stuff, with people being a bit edgy or?
We've had. I mean that can it is all about personal interpretation, and then different investors have different feel for different people. Like sometimes within the fund, like within the company, I like somebody, and then one of my partners like, I don't like that guy for whatever reason, and then if on top of that you have comments and outside like criteria that can get it gets very messy, and most of the time we do not invest in those situations.
And obviously that part of that ties into trust, and being able to trust the people you're investing in. How can teams show trust, and how can they destroy trust?
Trust, actually, from my experience, a lot of startups out of the region and Croatia especially they're learning from the US playbooks most of the time, and they're like, you guys from the Balkans, you're not good at storytelling. And then what is storytelling? That's the main thing. And then some of the Croatian people think that storytelling is very close to lying. And then unfortunately we like, if you cross that line with me, for instance, for me that's a huge red flag. Like if, I don't know, for an example, if you have a slide deck for your startup and you put, this guy's my advisor, I call up the guy, he's like, no, I'm not their advisor. It's like, why did I waste half an hour talking to these people? That's my reaction usually to that.
And that's kind of scary here, because in Croatia things are fairly incestuous, you all know each other, you're all talking to each other. Like when I look around here, like I know at least 73% of the people here. So
exactly. And investors talk to each other as well. I mean, investors, very much so talk to each other. So another example is like, oh, these guys signed up, they're going to put the money in. I'm like, oh, okay, phenomenal. I speed up the process within the fund. I'm like, we need to do EIC, which is like investment committee, like all these formal things. And then we call up the other fund. They're like, no, we haven't made up our mind. I'm like, dude. And then you skip. Like you just don't do that investment in that case.
Bridges burnt, reputation in tatters, and everyone knows they lied to you.
Yeah, unfortunately. So okay. We have a little bit of that, but we have some really, really good stories as well. So
cool. Yeah, there's today's red flags. We're going for the drama, right? Let's talk a bit about emotional attachment. So obviously you are still attached to some of your organizations financially, emotionally. How would you define your current attachments?
I mean, that's a very, very good one, and it's probably for another like a longer panel discussion as well. But I think it's very important actually that early startups and seed and pre-seed are connected with their startup, and they're passionate, they love what they're doing. But then at the same time, you do need to pull the plug and say, okay, Microblink is not me. It took me a while to do that, very frankly, because I was considering Microblink. Like those people, I hired those people. Like I built a company. It's not me. It's part of me. I helped build it, but it's like a organization for itself, obviously.
So when you see these founders coming along and they're looking for investment, and you see that they're heavily emotionally invested into their startup, do you see that as a red flag, or do you think, okay, we can play with that, we can help them, we can snip that umbilical cord?
If they have the passion and grit to do something, we're like, that's perfect. But also they need to be ready to pivot and sort of in case the things, if they fall in love with their idea and they're not open to hear you out, it becomes a problem. Okay. So that could be a red flag as well.
Cool. Yeah, if they don't listen, basically. Yeah. And you mentioned Računi.hr earlier on, and it was a failure. You mentioned earlier you don't mind if they've had two or three. You like founders that have founded two or three things before. It doesn't matter if it's a failure. Are newbies a red flag then? If they're fresh faces, new in the game, never had a failure?
No, we love some of those. I mean, some of those can be very successful as well because they have a completely different paradigm, and they like completely new view of. They're not even looking. They're not. They do not consider the ongoing like brownfield as a problem. They're like they see a new niche, and then they focus on it and they do very well. We've made some investments in these that are they've like companies or like young people have built new verticals, which is phenomenal. So that's very interesting.
Okay, so yeah, no, it's good to hear because obviously, we asked if people have a startup, if they're looking for, if they've had investment, and there are lots of fresh faces here as well as we look around, right? Some fresher than others. So it's good for them to know that there's the opportunity to say, come to you guys with an idea or with a startup, with something going, even if they've never spoken to an investor before, and it not being a red flag.
You're completely right, and I think the sooner you get the exposure to VC, not necessarily only Silicon Gardens, but do come to us first. Like when you come up with the ideas and stuff, you can filter your idea with investors, and they can help you out, sort of pivot your business and see how you can think about the main things that we're looking at, which is mainly scalability, uniqueness of the product, like knowledge or whatever you're building that's scalable, it can go global in our case. We can help you out here. And then for some of the, like one of the investments that we've made, the last investment in Croatia that we made, we built that relationship for a year. Like the guys from Arkansas, they came over to us with a very early idea. We're like, okay, let's work on it. We worked for almost a year, and then we ended up investing in them. So
okay, yeah. Great. Yeah. And I remember you saying when we were chatting, like sometimes when you come with no experience with VCs, you actually get quite a pleasant surprise working with VCs about reporting and that side of it. Can you give a bit of an insight into how you work at Silicon Gardens with how much you expect them to produce reports? I remember you telling me about it was photomath, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's sort of it's a comparison of investors out of Europe versus investors out of US, where usually, I mean, most VCs, like if you're working on the product, if you have really good growth, and you're getting customers and out there, they don't want to bother you. Like it's not fun for us to ask for reports. Most of the time, when we ask for reports, is the fact that we have LPs that invest into the funds, and we need to report to them. But in the US, they're even more flexible with it. They're like, they literally tell you, okay, how long does it take you to do the report? And you tell them 8 hours a month. And they're like, okay, take these 8 hours and focus on the product and the customers. Like, we don't care about the report. Okay. So, yeah.
Cool. So we've heard a bit about what investors think are red flags and what they don't. Let's turn this on its head. You've been both sides of the story. What should some of the startups out there see as a red flag in an investor? If an investor does something?
If you solely have an investor looking at a fast financial gain and only looking at the numbers, not concerned of what you're doing, how you're changing the world, what the impact of your startup is, it's probably a no-go. Another no-go that's been going on in Croatia as well, that you have VCs that unfortunately do not have the capital to invest. And then you have these startups talking to them for a very long time. But these guys don't really have the money to invest. They're sort of wasting their time. Okay. So do ask them, when you're approaching an investor, ask them how long are they into the fund? Because usually it's like 5 years of investing, 5 years of growth, and then 2 years to sell the company. So about 10 years to get out. Also, if you have investors that are looking for a very quick, like they want to get in and get out very fast, most of the time it doesn't work out. That's a red flag for investors as well. If somebody's not realistic about what they're trying to do, they're like, oh, okay, show us that you can do it, So yeah, there are quite a few, but I think the main one is, and this one sounds corny, but you do want to get the smart money. You want to get the experience of the VC that can help you open up the doors and help you out. And that's what we truly live at Silicon Gardens, where we practically we have bi-weeklies or monthlies with our portfolio companies. We try to ask them, how can we help you? That's the main point. The point of those meetings is not report to us what you're doing, but it's like, we're here, how can we assist you? Okay. And if you can't get this out of the investor, it's probably not a good one, I would say.
Okay, yeah, the human side. And like you said, with Silicon Gardens, you're all founders. You've been through it. You've had the failures. You've had the experiences. You've spoken to other VCs. You know what works and what doesn't work. And I think that's important for people to be able to come to you with confidence as well, rather than some other VCs that are like career VCs.
Even though I do want to add on it, it's never one-on-one experience. So my experience from Računi, Iskon Internet, or Microblink, Photomat does not ever match one-on-one. It's never the same. Like each startup does need to find their own way, but we can help them and tell them maybe you should not go in that direction because it didn't work out for us. Sometimes they're stubborn, and sometimes really good ones. Like you're like, don't do it, and they do it well. It's like we're just advising and trying to help out there. So yeah.
Excellent, thanks. We're gonna see if there are any questions from the crowd. Last time they were very quiet. Maybe they've had a bit more confidence now. Maybe a bit. We have one question over here. Let me slowly get up. It's not. Are you good for a rakia now?
Hey, do you have a story about one that got away, where you really wanted to invest, but for some reason it didn't really work out?
Actually, we did. We had a couple where actually due to my personal reasons, I was very early. It was early on in my investment cycle, and it was like they had the white lie towards me, and I found out they lied. I was like, shit, we're not doing it. These guys are doing these days. These guys seem to be doing very well, but I do not regret not investing in them. If you know what I mean, I'm still okay with it.
What's really great? Oh, we have another question. Well, yeah, come on over. But what's really good?
This one's from Google. Watch out.
Google, powered by.
So you said you were vibe investing, right, at the beginning, like the angel investments. Are they all in the negative, or are you still hoping to get something out of them?
Very, very frankly, the money that I angel invested, I'm not counting on it. But luckily enough, a company from Split that I invested in already offered me 4x to my investment. I didn't take it, so not all of them are failures. But it's like I'm like when you're angel investing, you need to be ready to lose that money. I would say, yeah. But yeah, I cheer for them and I also help them out whenever I can. So.
Okay, we're gonna wrap up here. There's another panel here now, so stick around. But Izet's going to be on the main stage at 8 o'clock, I believe, something like that, yeah? So if you like this guy, you like what he's saying, obviously you can find him now. He'll be hanging around, but he'll also be on the main stage later on, so make sure.
In Croatian as well. So
oh yeah, točno bit na hrvatskom. Onda možda lakše za some people here. Cool, excellent. Thank you so much, Izet. Round of applause, please.
Thank you.
Hvala lipa.